Hi there. I did have a film piece, but with a bit of a technical issue. You'll just see a still of the film. But, so I assure you it's a very good film. I'm looking at groundedness in terms of grounding architecture and internalisation and sort of externalisation within this. These are a couple of examples of, I work mostly in photography and film. I'll describe the sort of intellectual grounding before I go into what I'm trying to show in the work. The basic ideas I've been looking at are sort of Foucauldian ideas of disciplinary power and disciplinary space, which is basically the idea of disciplinary power is the collection of information, so power of knowing and knowledge. And disciplinary space is, I started off looking at prisons and institutions and that sort of space. I've since moved on to sort of communal living and high-rise buildings and that sort of more public, less insular spaces, but still quite insular. And disciplinary space, the idea is that it's separated into as many elements as many spaces as there are like elements or bodies. And the idea is to, yes, for isolation and gathering of information and creating communication between useful elements and disrupting others. Foucault cites the example as a sort of the embodiment of disciplinary space and disciplinary power is the Panopticon, which I understand is the design they used in Kilmainham Jail in Dublin. So it's a sort of central tower, and surrounded by it is sort of open-faced cells. And the idea is sort of constant surveillance of inmates, so hopefully to affect behaviour and lessen, I suppose, sort of violent behaviour and stuff in prisons. What I'm more interested in is how that affects the inmates. Originally, is what I was looking at. How that affects character and how that affects identity and behaviour, rather than the gathering of knowledge. So yeah, most of my film is sort of exteriors of spaces, and it's it's stripped. I'm trying to take shots as sort of stripped back and bare as possible. And in my film work, it's shot to show a degree of ambiguity. I mean, the spaces could be high-rises, they could be the interiors of prisons, they could be other institutions, and a lot of the film work is in these different spaces, but it's not clear as to which one's which. And I'm not looking at a sort of one-to-one correlation between the sort of philosophical aspect and the work. It's just a basis to work from. I'm not looking for any answers. So I started off looking at the idea of internalisation through the use of architectures in prisons, and sort of the internalisation of criminality through how, talking to a lot of convicts and ex-convicts, it's a lack of privacy, I suppose, and sort of enforced viewing of them that sort of kind of galvanises their criminality and personality and makes that part of that. But then I sort of moved on to sort of exteriors of like just in my view just as unnatural ways of living, which is sort of high-rise buildings which seem to act in the same way as these institutions. It's grouping a big body of people, mostly in high-rises that I've been working in, just working class, and sort of working class element of cities and towns, and it seems to be like an unnatural grouping and a way of living in these spaces. There's no real privacy. The idea of Panopticon is sort of transferred into use of CCTV and the way the space is designed. A lot of the ones that I've been looking at is sort of, you've got a central tower of CCTV, which is just the same pretty much. And you've got your surrounding high rises. But even I find it interesting how you were really dwarfed in these environments. You're looking up at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of windows, and you're just an element in that, as opposed to, well, to me it doesn't seem like a home place. It's not a natural way of living. Yeah, so I was looking at interiors and exteriors that were stripped back, and showing, how unnatural these spaces are, and if you're in these stark spaces, I mean, it could be institutions, or it could be these spaces, how these spaces influence your behaviour and your character, and even group you in terms of class and social situation, and how that affects and grounds you in terms of character. Really interests me. This would have been the film, but this is just a sort of blurry wall here. So basically this most of this, what I'm talking about, is the sort of intellectual basis of my stuff, but my artwork, I'm interested in these things, but I'm most interested in how character is created within society, and identity is created in society, and how that's grounded in space and architecture, and how the organisation of architecture affects even things like thought, the development of thought. And it would have been a film clip to show, but that's